that this is Jesus' big day. This is that third day. This is where he's going to come out of that tomb and the whole world's going to know. Right? He had just risen from the dead. Most would think he would have chosen this spectacular grand entrance. Dun dun dun! I'm back. But what does he do? He simply walks 7 miles with 2 people who were confused. He simply walks. He listens. He talks. In their confusion and disillusionment, Jesus draws near to these followers, walking this dusty path with them, listening to their conversation, as we see in verse 15. Jesus then throws a few questions out to provoke some more conversation, as we see in verses 17 and 19. And he again takes time to listen to their story or their complaint. Later on, Christ ends up staying with them, and it's through the act of breaking bread that their eyes are opened, in verses 28 through 31. Now, Jesus could have spent this time performing more miracles, more wonders, though he never actually did any of that to amaze people. That was never the purpose. He could have made appearances to the religious leaders and to Pilate to prove his resurrection, but he decided it was best to draw near 2 people who were confused and be next to them. That was how he chose to return. That's pretty cool. He was more interested in restoring the 2 confused people to their faith than he was about awing a crowd with a spectacular performance. Okay, guys, where are my basketball players in here? All right? So, you're on the court. It's a buzzer shot. Take it. 3 points, you win. You make that 3-point shot. It sinks. Crowd goes wild. What are you doing? You're not saying, oh man, I need to go up and hang out with the team. No, you're taking glory. Right? This was Jesus' glory time, and what's he do? He said, I need to talk to these 2. The rest of the world's going to come along. These 2 are going to start. Jesus was not so important as to keep a distance from people. He didn't feel that he had that presence to have to keep his distance from others. You know, we look at celebrities, and I was listening about Mike Tyson the other day and how he had 1 person on his payroll just to go behind him and say, hey, great job. Seriously? True. You know, Jesus was not a person who felt that important that he needed to have that, hey, great job. This is a guy who sat with prostitutes. He sat with drunkards. The world saw him as a friend of prostitutes and drunkards. They thought that this guy was whoring it up and drinking it up, when he wasn't. But this is our God. This is the God we serve. The God who came and pulled each and every one of us in our filth and restored us to Christ, restored us to God, simply through the grace of his heart and by standing with us. He was committed to people, committed to interacting with humanity. That's why he came down here. If God simply wanted to be God from up there, he could. Who are we to tell God what to do? It's like I'm a speck of dust in this big old beach. But you know what? God decided, hey, I need to come down here. I need to be here with you guys. Here was the great shepherd whose first focus was not preaching or catching vision or having great evangelistic crusades. Here was the Good Shepherd interacting with the ones he had created, the God in the flesh, willing to touch, look, and listen. So taking what we just learned, I'm almost done with my topic, and then I'm going to bring it on to your topics. I want to get rid of the paralysis of fear. Fear paralyzes our church today. How many of us sitting in here are saying, I want to do more for God? But I got bills to pay. Maybe I got a family to raise. You know what? That Xbox Call of Duty game just came out. I maybe need to play that a little bit. But fear paralyzes us. When we propose including interactivity and conversation into our sermons, church leaders are very fearful and that people might say something doctrinally imperfect. Right? We might have some wrong things that we're going to say if I start saying, hey, tell me about such and such topic. You might say, oh, well, I think this, and it might not be in that Bible. But guess what? The folks that are sitting right here and in that church service up there are already engaging in that exact same conversation out on the street. Why not handle it in the church before they go out on the street? Arm them with the tools to handle the questions. If they've got that question in their mind, guess what? It might be being preached as a doctrinally imperfect theology out there on the street. Some leaders say that the conversation takes place not in the worship service, but in classes and small groups like here on Wednesday night, and that's great. We need that. Again, my friend who has a church in Idaho, 8,500 people. This is a town of 50,000 people, and 8,500 people a week go to his church. Do the math. That's a big percentage of that town. They have 1,600 small groups that meet a week. 1,600 small groups a week. Most people don't make it past the worship service, though. Okay, how many people do we have here on Wednesday night? How many people were up there? 150, maybe 200? Got 25 in here. How many people show up on a Sunday? About 1,000? We're bringing back 20% for our small groups. That means 80% of our regular attenders are going out there with those same questions without the answers. So can interactivity and conversation work in a worship service? My friend of mine in Idaho, high-profile pastor, large church, told me he knows that I'm sorry, this is a different guy. High-profile pastor in this area who has a large church told me that he knows that a conversation and participation level does lead to greater growth, but it's impossible, quote-unquote, when you have more than 100 people. Okay. But he's mistaken. My friend in Idaho, who's pastoring, does it with 8,500 people every Sunday. And through the week. And the phone rings to the elders and the pastors throughout the week. I got a question. Sure. Fire away. Rather than droning on for 30 or 40 minutes like I realized that my 4 pages is going to be, preachers would be more effective if they'd offer some thoughts through a few minutes and then pose a good Jesus-style question, which we're going to do in just a minute. But fear also prevents the church from talking about those things that people really want to talk about. But our fearless conversation needs to be what? Fearless, right? We need to be talking about and including God in topics such as mental illness, racism, homosexuality, transgenderism, masturbation, suicide, Islam, Mormonism, hell, doubt, all those things you've got questions about. I guarantee it. Because guess what? I got questions about it. And if I have questions about them when I was 20-something, I guarantee you've got some questions about them when you're 20-something, because I still have questions about some of them when I'm 40-something. Fear not. God tells us that. Fear not. Fearless conversation offers a few more benefits. It provides teachers and preachers the opportunity to listen to each and every one of you. It's a great opportunity if you think about it. That's a blessing in itself. To be quiet and to listen, which is enormously useful for any leader who wishes to understand what the people are actually thinking. In addition, real conversation, not the rudimentary meet and greet, not the 5 minutes that we take, hey, go ahead and shake somebody's hand. Not that rudimentary meet and greet, promotes a relationship and enables people to connect with others on a meaningful level. You're wondering how we can get more people in here, right? Let's connect. Go beyond just the, hey, you're new at this church. Great, my name's Fred. I sit over there, have a good service. Let's connect. That provides authentic relevance. You bring relevance into your conversation. That kind of relevance doesn't come from the preacher's really cool clothing, as you can see my really cool clothing here. Any facial hair, which I intentionally did not shave, and eloquent speech. But true relevance is personal. True relevance is customized to each individual.